15 years, and then I didn't know what I was doing. So I started looking for some place to take a class, and of course, the university was here, and Gail Marie Palmier was teaching workshop, and she said, "Okay, well, send me your stuff, we'll see." So she let me in, and then I was taking a course, just trying to keep writing, trying to keep going, and Steve Gerke said, from this class, why don't you apply for the MFA? I said, never thought. So here I am, and Michael's my classmate in the back. He and I are in our third year, facing our thesis in comps. So, yeah, I'm grateful for everybody who's contributed to this in one way or another. So it's a memoir of a clinical psychologist. One of my colleagues, another one of my colleagues, several of them. So the title comes from one of the poems, but we deal with all the time the uncertainty that people live in, that we all live in on the planet. And so we have to learn to live with that. And it's kind of like learning to walk in quicksand. So I'm going to start with the beginning of my career, the third poem in the book, actually. And it's called These Warded Women of New Jersey. After I got my bachelor's degree, I wasn't such a great student and I needed more experience. I started reading everything and I had to find a job. And my first job was psychiatric tech in Trenton Psychiatric State Hospital, Trenton Psychiatric, where you needed a high school education to have this. So basically it was wrestling teenagers in the unit onto 4-point restraints, which the first semester of graduate school I learned that's not what you do. You increase the frequency and amplitude of the response when you do that. But one day, I got this call. These warded women of New Jersey, not far from where Washington crossed the Delaware almost 200 years before, I leave the lively, often violent wards of adolescence to the other end of the hospital grounds for patients at the other end of their lives. A tall gray block of building reflects the light into the hall of a day room. A chorus of silent women, almost mannequins, lolls in the gallery of chairs. The other psychiatric tech invites me in. Our combined ages surely exceed 40, but added together cannot reach close to the lifespan of the youngest woman here. The only sounds in the large room are the words of my fellow tech. I put my winter coat on the chair in the nurse's station. He teaches me to gently levitate each limp body from whose continent has fled. As we raise the first soul between us, I feel her frail bones in my arms, and gray hair whispers to my neck and beard. The ancient head leans against my chest, bringing me close to her neck's white skin. From the view over her shoulder, the back of the open patient gown discloses more white. There is no privacy or embarrassment here. My coworker pulls the large absorbent wafer from the seat of the Naugahyde chair, replaces the dry one, ready to receive fair skin. I gradually release her bird-like weight as my gentle grip lets her settle to her resting perch. 50 years later, the moment calls me back as I held the next and the next against my chest. I don't recall if the moments of our conversation brought any recognition, and the next, and the next. My memory is a quiet room we moved efficiently through. Did we awaken the longing to be held? Was the need for human touch even briefly so? There are a couple of seats up here if you guys. You never know who's going to walk in the door. And you learn to deal with it over time. But there were a couple of early times, and this is called new patient appointment. Minutes into the session, holding myself frozen at my desk, my spine shivers in its confinement, unable to bolt for the door behind me, only 3 feet, too far for safety. I discard the impulse to run and attend his fist, pounding on my gray steel-cased desk. My heart answers with blood pulse pounding in my ears. The man, senseless shouting, continues to shake my office. Breathe. Wait. Master the bullied boy inside me. The shouting continues, now ready to kill. He shouts, he will, his face red, his voice hard, too real. He will kill. Scenes of blood on the walls, bodies in the sagebrush pass through me. Who has he killed already? Killed. My young therapist heart calms. Wait. Hold firm and steady eye contact. Just let the thread pass. The patient gradually tires of his own helpless rage. I watch as the angry shield gives way. My therapist self acknowledges how much misery and helplessness feeds that scary outer rage. As the conversation continues, he agrees to sit down. He starts his real story. I suggest just raise the recliner footrest. At the end of the hour, with parting words, he turns to leave the office. I see the wooden grip of the revolver sticking out of his back pocket. How afraid he must have been to need that. Well,
are you going to, I mean, would you?
do you want to, what?
What happened? This obviously was someone that you.
There's circumstances that occur in different situations there. The poet ended, the poem ended.
Yeah, that's more.
Sorry, Marie.
Take the patients out here. Shut it down.
Okay, on a lighter note, the dangers of being married to a psychologist. Sometimes his theories speak louder than you. He's used to people listening to him. They pay him to do so. He knows his version of your diagnosis, whether you want to know it yourself or not. He invites you to read it in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. Even if he knows he's biased, he likes the clinical label. Obsessive compulsive, take your pick. Symmetry OCD, thought OCD, order OCD. Some days it's OCD without insight. Of course, he thinks his version of the disorder is less severe. He listens to his patients more patiently than he listens to you. When he is right and you know it, you are most annoyed. You forget that you married a psychologist. He forgets that you never signed a consent to treatment. So sometimes in dealing with things, we're trying to break down expectations, unrealistic idealization in relationships, the idealization of romantic love. And so this is called love's truths. You know she loves me. She makes idols to my mysteries. She worships the quicksand I walk on. She looks up to me from above. You know I love her. I stroll on the banks of her muddy flood zone. I hold her light before me to devour my darkness. I stand under the sword hanging from a thread of truth. She hides her tears in the clouds. I hide my fears in an arrogance of trust. And the differences between the mirrors we hold up, like the fire of passion we escape into. We, even though I've done some consulting in general hospitals and was on staff at local hospitals, we usually don't get in the middle of medicine. But sometimes we're called, and this happened literally. This is called the privilege. A family member called to cancel the appointment. My patient was lost in an abyss of darkness, lying unconscious in a distant city, dying. Her urgent need helped me overcome my shock and helplessness at the news. We had worked so hard to heal such near deadly wounds that bound her at the stakes of childhood brutality. There must be something I could do to overcome this indignity of life's new assault against her. Could she not have a moment of comfort to be at ease? The ICU doctor answered my call and said there was nothing else it could do. Her husband and children on a plane, expecting to be too late. There was only enough O2 getting through to keep her brain alive for a short time. Doctor, you may think this is weird, but would you put the phone to her ear? He replied, at this time, I'll do anything, and ran a line to her pillow. The one-sided conversation reached into her life, asking her to choose it with all its pain, with her children, the hard struggle to heal, anchoring memories in our shared years, desperate, reaching for moments of innocent light. Perhaps I was there, somewhere among the pulsing screens, beeping machines, IV poles, and tubes of precious air, there in that white automated room 2,000 miles away. 20 minutes later, someone picked up the phone. Something had changed. The pulse of life was quickening, oxygen piercing inflammation being metabolized. In the chart, a change of heart was noted. They put the phone back to her ear an hour longer, and she breathed stronger. I put the phone down, shaking. You never know what's going to come back to you, what patients heard, what they remember, what made a difference. And sometimes you're surprised negatively, sometimes you're surprised happily, but it's hard to guess. So this is called The Things I Say. Good to see a patient after several years. The mother's death brings her back. I see her hand with the bright promise stone. She smiles when my eyes touch it. She has been taken out by almost men who dined on her low self-esteem and loneliness. This woman has learned to feed herself an order of love. Her engaged is in Asia on business. I asked about the change she made. She replied, I just did what you told me. It was years ago. I can't remember. What did I say? What did she hear? You told me. Just practice dating. Don't shop at Walmart.
Very good.
This for a while I was working on my dissertation, I worked at El Dorado County in South Lake Tahoe and ended up living here for quite a while. And one day the staff over there called me and they said their psychiatrist was having problems and wasn't coming in and probably was drinking. Would I go do a consult in the home? Would I go talk to them? This is a well-known public, so there was no, you'll see there was no treatment involved. Plastic gravestones. Haphazard stacks of bottles recently delivered by taxi, already emptied at the condo on the lake with its elaborate door. What should have been a successful life. Fingerprints smeared the wall with shit. By the front window, lowering himself onto the bottles, he stares out at the water. An eagle glides over the shallows, hunting Tahoe fish at home there. There are no children here, only plastic bottles that clatter as they fall. I say, "Hey, Doc, let me get you out of here." Mount Talax, snowy cross, gazes down on us. "I'm doing what I want to do," he says, and asks me to leave. The room echoes funereal. I assume all the plastic bottles were carried out 2 months later when he finalized his marriage to drink and gave his life to his promise, complete. So you never know where kind of an inspiration, where a poem is going to lead. And Murray, you asked about this poem, so I'm going to read it. But when I read it, what I want you to do is to think about what you think it's about. And then I'll tell you the origin. It's called Immaculate Love. I think I love you. You crawl into my dreams. I don't want to break Yahweh's laws, but is that you near my bed's curtain? Does Yahweh make my body want you? I watch you climb the temple steps and only want to walk with you in Torah. Does Spirit move me to this carpenter man? Sometimes I think you have wings that enfold me at night to lift me to heaven. Then I feel you know me from inside my heart. I think I love you. I am at peace with what blooms. I trust you to take me to Bethlehem. So this is one of 2 poems that came out of a consultation. Steve Frankel, who's an international expert on trauma and dissociation, was coming monthly to Carson, and we would meet with him and he would give us articles to read. And this day we were reading articles on women who came full term and delivered without knowing they were pregnant. Tragic consequences. And that got me thinking about what happens? How do people interpret their experience? And how do they make sense of it? The other thing that happened in the other poem, which didn't make the cut in the book, but I'll read it. The colleague who had this experience gave me permission to share the poem. It's called The Echo. Colleagues consult in our group. Our cases often push us into issues from the inner cores of our own lives. New awareness will erupt, volcanic feelings and quaking that might shake our hearse. The group heard the crunch. We felt the break. Our colleague's words told herself, as she told us. Echoes came up from the decades to touch this room. We felt the tenderness of her soul suppressed. The wet teen child stood naked on a showered drain, seeing a red thing that slid down her leg. Adolescent confusion as she just wants to push the red clot of blood away. The sign of woman then so poorly understood. Her foot and ears told her of some solid thing. Only these decades later has she understood. Her words stitched red in memory, so her new tapestry of truth. A would-be child fled the warmth of her suddenly vacant womb. A pink watery swirl around that foot. Both girl and woman with us today in naked emotion. Both teen and woman embarrassed, now with awe, now with grief, now with compassion for life and its loss. So that and the previous poem came to me. that consultation with that day. Okay, got a couple of minutes. Okay, this is called Dr. Wife. She loves to sew stitches, binding things that bleed. She has a knack for nitrogen in that stainless steel spray can and enjoys the drips of acid across the skin. I sometimes think she is planning the next campaign across my face, leaving footprints of small animals following the sun's shadows of my years. She always has her suture kit ready, looking for new opportunities. One Friday night, when the ER is sure to be crowded with greetings from contagious phyla, alumina flashing bites deep into the fleshy part of my palm. I say, "Don't touch me." Go to aid myself in the drawer looking for 4-square, butterfly bandage, and skin stretch tape. Sometimes do-it-yourself scars make the best abstract art. Better that my wife cut me in the normal ways between her love's caresses. Then there are other notes, moments in relationships. This is called Born from Our December. Our cold breasts freeze, words to shatter between us. The cold wind shines with white frost from the ice moon. I want to walk into the winter wooded yard, lie down between the trees and shrubs, let the roots and dirt enfold me to take me from this life. Maybe in spring, something she can love will grow. Okay, let's go back to something a little lighter. Okay, this is called Fixing the Ford. My father didn't have time to take me out for driving lessons, but he took me for the New Jersey driving test. I annoyed them both when in front of the uniformed examiner, I told him the test was easy. Dad drove us home in his 64 Corvair. Mother got that powder blue Ford Sunliner for $100. Drove it for 4 years. We never had a garage, so the snowplows on the country road helped splash salt into the already rusting wounds in that blue paint. They gave me this first fixer-upper to drive to work. From high school to grocery store, I flew with the inherited car, blue, limping behind. The Sunliner was a convertible with a history of leaks and roof down forgetfulness. This black roof folded down into a well where the rain became a reservoir that sloshed around as the car moved. Gas pedal, brake pedal. Tide goes in and out as the forces of inertia caused the waves. Powder blue with heavy gray black top, offset by colors of rust and chip flecks of primer coat. That right front headlight shining through the remains of steel made it through that tough New Jersey inspection process. I was illegal. To continue this story, this is called 3 Good Days. When the cops pulled me over, almost fishtailing, on the downtown circuit, they noticed I had installed 6 seatbelts in my powder blue cruiser. All 4 of us were wearing them. Saved my first ticket. The day we were going to the lake, Terry Miller came running with his towel to make his usual jump into the front seat. As he launched his graceful hurdle, I took my foot off the brake. Terry landed on top of Dave Beam in the rear. That moment of graceful catastrophe became part of our friendship folklore told in future decades at reunion. The best was when a man I didn't know walked up to me at the little neighborhood store. He said, "I've been watching you do the body work in your front yard. Nice job on that rusted out headlamp and fender." I immediately adopted him as my new father. I never saw him again, but was always hoping he approved of my pattern. This is called Alzheimer's in Youth. There are two realities left in my life. It seems a long scream echoing back to me in this darkness. She floats nearby as I become a ghost to myself. I try to hold on to her face, practice memorizing her eyes. I try to match the memory of Minsk against the beautiful breast she shows me to remind me of our love. The diagnosis continues to argue with me. Beta amyloid should be a plaque on my trophy wall, not mud in my brain. I know what's happening, but I can't stop my brain from missing the turns home or make my phone show me the way. We cry together sometimes. I push back the void that crowds her out. How can she continue to love this increasingly empty bag of flesh? As I haunt myself in its ruins. The difference I used to make in the world seems unreal now. The work becoming so confusing. I can still do some things. I can still find my way here. I remember her. We knew a time once. I know where it is. I know you. I do. Let's do one more. I don't know which one. Anybody have a request that knows the word? Some of you? No? Okay, I'll do 89 days. The chair of the AA meeting asks, is there anyone with less than 30 days? He doesn't raise his hand. And he doesn't raise his hand for the 90-day check he would have received today, but for last night. Of course, there is no magic in 90 days, but indeed, there is no coincidence in 89, missing the milestone of seemingly minor success. Fires rage inside the man. Storms of flames burn across his mind and body silently. When the chair asks, does anyone have a burning desire? He doesn't raise his hot hand. It's like retaking that hill in Vietnam. Report the body count, walk point until the next ambush in the jungle. And when there is a need to call for support, he goes alone into that rat tunnel. He takes comfort only in dust and canteen and tells stories to the ghosts he meets in that dark. A part of him hopes he'll never come back to the casualties of daylight again. But in the rooms, he doesn't raise his hand and knows he can't be loved as long as he's alive. Okay. Any questions, or we have some time for comments, or throwing fruit?
Please keep writing. Yeah.
That's an intention. I have to finish.
Please keep writing.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, well, then I guess we're done for tonight. Feel free to look around. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it was located over there.